So this is Andy. You've seen him cruising with Chugs for the last few months. We can't get rid of him. Can't get rid of him, can we, Andy?
No, mate.
No. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm Andy, now 60 years old, married with 3 boys, and it was always an ambition that when I retired I was going to have some sort of boating life. And after looking at different types of catamarans around the Med, I stumbled across a few narrowboat channels 5-6 years ago and followed Gary right from the start with a few others. Went to the Crick Boat Show to have a look at a few boats and to see, because of the 6'10" beam, just wondered about how we could live on them.
Yeah, we met you a few times at Crick, I think the last 3 years, and you're coming with us to Crick this year, aren't you, mate?
Yeah, hopefully.
With Wolf Moon. Do you want to tell the viewers a little bit about Wolf Moon?
Yeah. Basically, I was driving from Kent, where I used to live, going up north, and I had an email from a brokerage. A new boat had come on the market, and I basically pulled off the motorway and went to have a look and fell in love with it there and then. It's a 58-foot trad stern with a Vetus 42 horsepower engine in it. It's 4 berth, but the maximum number of people I can have on it is 8. And it's, to me, it was a go anywhere type boat. I didn't want anything bigger, and having a wife and a boy that's going to be joining me shortly to live on it, I didn't want anything smaller.
Yeah, you got plenty of room on there, and Nikki and I have been in the boat, and I reckon you got a bargain there. You don't have to say the price, but you have got a beautiful boat. It's like new.
Yeah, the survey, like anything else, picked up a few minor points. Took me around about 8 weeks to sort of like actually move on board, and all the boats I have looked at, I certainly did get a bargain there.
You did. You've done a bit of work, though, to make her how you want her. You have been virtually every day we've been cruising. You're doing little bits of work. What have you had to do? I know you've done wiring and bits and pieces just to suit yourself, haven't you?
Yeah. I've added extra solar panels, extra batteries, a lot of wiring to do it how I want it. Having boats in the past, I like everything ship-shape.
Yeah, but not boats like this either.
Oh, no. I've had a big catamaran that I used as a dive boat out of Dover. I come from a diving background. Had dinghies when we lived in Norfolk. I was brought up in Norfolk, so having dinghies on the Broads.
Yeah.
My dad had a small Westerly Seahawk, which was a trailer sailor. So we'd just drive it up and down the coast, find a slipway and go sailing. Having dinghies from a primary school age, we used to go away at weekends.
So you've always been around water, really?
Always.
Around most of your life?
Yep.
And of course, your working career as well, which we'll touch on to in a minute. Right, so Andy, you hit on your diving career. So what did that entail, and what did you do with it?
Right, my diving career started off as a general offshore diver, which means it was multi-role. And what I specialised in was salvage and recovery, a lot of survey work, repair work. To the end of it, I spent loads of money, got mixed gas trained, and doing a lot of the deeper stuff for recovery.
I believe you did one on Hanover.
Yes.
That sounds interesting. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, I was approached by a public limited company, a diving company just set up, and we went looking for a wreck called the Hanover. It was a Falmouth packet ship, left Falmouth and went to Portugal. The captain was very famous, James Sherwood, well known. Left Portugal, coming back to Falmouth, and when he was in Portugal, he bought a wedding ring for his wife to be. Very sad story. The wreck didn't get round the Lizard to get into Falmouth, so he went round the far end of Cornwall, the longships, where they started getting into trouble, and the wreck became underneath the cliffs at a place called Hanover Cove. The company was looking for it for about 20 years, 25 years, and we was all sat in a pub one day and we saw this old map on the wall, and this small cove was called Hanover Cove. And
It's quite apt.
yeah, we spent, well, over a course of a pint, we was umming and ahhing whether to spend £1 million going to look for that wreck. And 7 years we was marking the cliffs, watching the sand going down, just taking all measurements. And one day it just popped up.
Yeah, and you got it. Well,
Yeah.
I've seen the picture, and I'm going to share the picture now. Can you explain what's on this picture?
Ship's timbers, the ship's anchor, 56 cannons.
56.
Yeah, all bronze cannons, and some were iron. We had a company get involved to put a 9-volt battery through the cannon and use polymer resin.
Right.
And we dropped one cannon from 3 meters high, and it didn't break on concrete.
Blimey.
They did loads of research of getting what was inside the cannon out, because there was a lot of food. Food was packed inside cannons.
Right.
Being transported. So skeletons of rats and things like that.
Yeah.
Dendrochronology on the ship's timbers. Basically, the ship was carrying gold. That's mainly what we was looking for to get salvaged. But finding the captain's ring, one of the directors, he made a opera from it.
Oh,
And
right.
he still, to this day, gets royalties from that opera.
Right. It's very interesting. It really is.
Yeah. And then after that, I bought a diving company that was failing. I knew I could make it work. Bought that and run the boat and run it out of Dover,
Yeah.
doing wreck diving with sports divers.
So how long were you a diver then in total?
Got to be 38 years.
Long time.
Yeah.
And then you changed career. I think your dad influenced you in your change of career.
My dad never wanted me to follow any of the boys and the sister. He didn't want any of us to follow in his footsteps. He was ex-Navy, he was a TA paratrooper and a Coast Guard. I used to do work with the Coast Guard, doing like display work, using safety. Being at Dover, you can imagine what I was doing as well with migrants in the early days. But I used the boat with cross-channel swimmers. I took Richard Branson with his ambi car across one day.
Oh, wow.
A famous German diver that we now know, he deflected. He wanted to swim across the bottom of the channel from Dover to Calais, and he basically got half a mile off Dover, put him on the boat because there was a big reception committee in Calais, and I refused. I took him round to Boulogne, got him off.
Oh, right. Wow. So you did join the Coast Guard, and obviously there's a hint of that with the flag on the back of your boat.
Basically what I did was sold my boat because I wanted to get into the wind farm transfer crew, and at the time the Coast Guard asked me, can we have your boat for this weekend? And I went, no, sorry mate, I sold it. And he said, oh, what are you going to do now? I said, well, I'm going to look at a bigger boat. I did go and look at that boat, but it's £500,000 worth just to get it through the coding that you needed for diving. And I went and said to him, there's going to be no boat for the future, for the time being, still looking. And he said, how about being a Coast Guard? And that was on the Wednesday, and I was a Coast Guard by the Monday.
Yeah, so Andy, you became a Coast Guard after your dad as well. So what did that work entail?
So after a year's worth of training, my 12-hour watch, I'd go into work, and basically at Dover, you're monitoring the shipping up and down the channel. It's the busiest channel in the world for shipping. You're getting 800 crossings, 800 movements a day. That includes crossings of ferries. Back then it was hovercraft, sea cats.
Lots of leisure craft as well,
Loads of
perhaps
leisure craft
a lot
in the
of
summer.
inexperienced people, perhaps, and people that shouldn't be doing it.
Yep, and then you have 999 calls coming in. Bearing in mind, when I first started, our search and rescue patch was from Harwich on the East Anglian coast all the way down to Selsey Bill.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of leisure activity through the Solent coming across to France. You deal with the situation. If you need help, you've got a senior Coast Guard overseeing you. Basically, when you're qualified, you're left on your own.
Yeah.
So the one that the Coast Guard operations room is different to any other emergency service. You get the 999 call.
Yeah.
You launch all your lifeboats. You're controlling the lifeboats by putting them in different search areas.
Yeah, excuse the dogs. Somebody's just walked past with some dogs. We get used to this, don't we, Andy?
Yeah, and then you're running the whole instant. You're probably getting ambulances down to lifeboat stations. You're putting aircraft up, going to hospitals. You're informing the hospitals.
It's a heck of a responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why you're highly paid.
And that's why you can afford a nice boat.
Yeah. So, having spent nearly 20 years in the Coast Guard, the last 3 years probably, going to the boat show and meeting other vloggers and narrowboaters, I came down with a medical problem, which was a bowel cancer type thing, but all the checks, it wasn't cancer. They took 80% of the bowel away. Going back and having blood tests and everything else, they found out I had cancer of the throat. Now, being a Coast Guard, I was struggling, talking on the phone, talking on the radios, and eventually I lost my voice. And being nearly 60 was one of the reasons why I decided to take early retirement. The choice the hospital gave me was an operation or lose my voice for life. I didn't want to lose my voice for life. I must admit I was struggling with the voice, and basically decided with my wife, she was struggling after living here for 9 years, going to and fro hospital with her. She was struggling, and the best thing for her to do was go back to Ukraine and get all her medical problems sorted out, which...
Yeah, you mentioned about your wife. Yeah, you've been married some time.
since 2013.
Yeah, and she lived over here, didn't she, for 11 years? But she is Ukrainian, and she's over there with your little boy, Vova.
Yeah.
But I believe they're coming over. Maybe in a month now. You're going through all the visa and everything else. So she's coming back.
Yep.
And she's going to live on Wolf Moon with you, and you're going to come cruising with us, I believe.
Yeah, and the good thing about it is that he's 9 years old, and he's an ideal mate for Noah.
Yeah, yeah.
Cruising around, he's got to catch up on his English
Yep.
and all the other schooling work that he can do. So me and Gary thought they could sit down together and do it themselves.
It's going to be a win-win, mate. It's going to be good company for Noah and, of course,
And
Lily. Yeah, I mean, Lily will. They'll all sort of play together and everything. But I believe little Vova, which is your little boy, is a bit of a chess champion.
Yeah, he does chess club, and he got upset the other day when I was speaking to him on the phone. He's ranking 5th now.
Now that's but that's with adults.
Yeah.
You know,
He's
it's
beaten a few adults.
you know, he's 9.5. He's virtually about the same age as Noah, so that's pretty good going.
There's a couple of weeks difference between them.
There isn't a lot, and I know Nikki and I have tried to teach Noah to play chess. He's sort of getting his head around it, but yeah, he's not up to your little one's standard yet.
No, it was quite a shock for me as well.
Nikki and I obviously are looking forward to them coming over, as probably just as much as you are, perhaps.
Yeah.
But how are you finding the narrowboat life? I mean, you've been on the boat now since July, I think.
Yeah, beginning of July last year, I could say.
Yeah, beginning of July, and you've been doing quite a bit of cruising. We haven't stopped. We met up with you in the October
Yeah.
at Atherstone Flight, and you've been cruising with us ever since, really. How are you enjoying boat life?
How am I enjoying cruising? When I first got the boat, I wanted to set it up my way. Plus I was still having some treatment around Northampton Hospital, so I was staying in that area. Getting used to the boat, I just drive up and down the Grand Union, Stoke Bruin and back to Wilton. And having spoken to Gary for numerous years over telephone and texting and everything else, he asked me what I was doing for winter, and I spent many hours trying to chase him, catch him up at the Atherstone flight. Got there for beginning of October and been with him ever since. The winter plan was to come up here on the Llangollen Canal, which is amazing scenery.
Yeah, it's one of the best.
Yeah, but once joined Gary, it's all the stress that I've had over the last few years has gone. I've never been, apart from diving where I had to have medicals, I've never been so healthy and fit, and
you're all clear as well.
All clear, and really enjoying life. I think it was the best idea ever, was to actually buy a narrowboat rather than going around the Med on a catamaran.
Yeah, it's lovely to see your face. Nicky and I are sort of getting a kick out of it, to see your smiling face all the time. And you're certainly enjoying it, mate, aren't you?
Yeah, the views are absolutely stunning.
And the pace of life.
Canal you're on.
And the pace of life.
Yeah, I don't have to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning now to go to work. I'm not having one ear to the phone in the middle of the night. It's just so relaxed.
Yeah, well, I hope that's given a bit of an insight into Andy here. Thanks very much for your time, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you very much.